What's up, guys? Welcome to the Woke Podcast. So, this is the second episode, but the first actual episode since the first one was more of an introduction. So, I'm your host, I'm Bartek, and I'm joined by my co host.
Tymek, yeah.
Yeah. So, Timek, how have you been?
I've been doing great, I feel like. There aren't really many things that changed. The one thing that actually has changed, and I'm really proud of that, is taking my mom finally to the gym. Because I actually, at the moment, I think I have taken 5 or 6 people to the gym. Not all of them have still go there, but I think all of them made some progress. My mom has been like her first time, but progress comes with a few months, years. So if she sticks to it, I'm really happy to make that thing for her, because that's like the best thing you can do, like the first point of your life journey. So it starts becoming better at that moment. So yeah, I'm really happy about that. Like that's the only thing
Yeah, that's
that
kind of
happened.
sick, not gonna lie.
Yeah. So what about you? Have something
Okay,
happened? Like,
so
okay.
basically, uh, I had to go to the military commission, which is the thing in Poland when you turn 18, you have to go to some building and they basically grade you of how good of a recruit you'll be. And there's 4 grades from A to E without C. There's A, B, D, and E. Yeah, so I got an A, so this is like I'm perfectly fine to go to the army. Yeah.
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
happy for that. Very.
yeah, I mean, like an A seems, exceptional. Like I actually seen like some videos about it, and there were people who were like perfectly fine. At least that's what they said, and they got like an E or like a D. So A seems like you're like in a really good condition, prepared for anything.
Yeah, I mean, they don't only test you physically, but they also test you like mentally. You talk to a psychologist, so maybe that was the issue with that people.
Okay, probably yeah. So, back to the topic. Today is like one big topic, which is books, because book reading is one of the things in self improvement that really helps you a lot, because there are many people who can tell you many interesting things you can learn from and like help your life. So, we mostly have prepared a few books. I have some books you can like begin with, start with reading. Most of them are pretty easy, I'd say. But how about yours, Bartek? Do you think like yours are still good to begin, or should you be a bit more advanced? Like, what do you have prepared for us today?
Yeah, so I think my books are also like for beginners, but they all are about self-improvement. I know that you have some books, like some fantastic books. So
Yeah. So, do you
uh,
want to start with
this
like
is
your first
the
book?
main this is the main difference between our choices for today. You can start.
Okay, so one I have like two books. They are probably similar to each other from what I have read, and that is the Witcher series, which is like a Polish series. Many people of you probably know about this because there is a TV series, there are some games. I think there are like 2 animated movies from what I remember. And that is a pretty good series because this is a Polish book which actually changed the world, I'd say, because that is like the first Polish book which is known throughout the world in many different ways. And I'd say this is like the best beginning book I have because it isn't that boring from if you are starting at reading books, many of them aren't that interesting, I have to say. Like, there are books which are like 700 pages long, and they are like interesting for 200. So that's the issue. And like Witcher series is mostly interesting throughout the whole time, I'd say. But I have like an alternative, which is the Inquisitor series. The Inquisitor series is a lot like Witcher series, which you have like a male protagonist. They fight. Like it's a fantasy world. Yeah, that's like a simple book. However, I like the Inquisitor series because of one thing also, and that is that it's a pretty religious book, I'd say. It mostly talks about Catholicism, but that's like a different way of how you would see normal Catholic religion, because it changes up half of it, I'd say. And that really not like helped me see religious things, because the world there is what the world uh, earlier in our lives would look like, where people still were religious and religion was like an important part of our life. In a different ways, of course, because like they have demons and stuff like known throughout the world, but still that's a great thing to like read, I'd say, if you're a religious person. Doesn't have to be like a Catholic one. It's just a good book to get you more into religion, to see how strong it was in the earlier times of humankind.
Yeah, so I want to stay in the topic and kind of ask you about what you said. So my take on fantastic books is I think that they're not the best for you because they're basically like you would watch some Netflix series or a movie, but you just read, and the only thing that actually improves is your vocabulary.
Yes, however,
So
my take on it is
yeah,
that sorry to interrupt you, but like my take on it is that yes, it isn't the best, but if you have like the average person, they probably like watch Netflix series, so you know that's like the lowest level you have. So they like are interested in the story. Then you could read the books because they are like better for you. Like you aren't sitting like watching things. There isn't fan service in books, at least not that much. Like the fantasy books are the lowest you can go on like the book list. Then you have like the probably sci-fi, I'd say, because it is much more like life similar. Like it can actually happen most of the time. Then you have like the philosophical books, you know. It's a bit better for you because you're actually learning something important. And then you have like the only self-improvement books, which are the probably the best. But I'm talking about like, you know, the things you should begin with. So I like fantasy because if you're young, if you're old, there is something to be found in those series. And like I said, The Witcher is mostly just for fun to read. Like it is mostly simple, but like the Inquisitor series does make you ask some philosophical questions. At least that's what was for me, because it shows really strong sides of religion. And now I'd say we are on the like weaker side. That religion, at least the Catholic one, isn't that strong. So it makes you ask some questions, you know. And that, I think that's one thing the book should make you ask questions, you know, make you look at life in a different way. So like I agree with you that it isn't like the best thing you can read, but if you're the beginner, reading a few of those can help you, I feel like.
okay. So what you mean is that if you don't read at all, if you want to start reading, you should start with fantastic books. Is that right?
They are the easiest because like if you look at the self-improvement books, like I think the most known, the most popular ones are like 48 Laws of Power, Can't Hurt Me, and they are great books, but they aren't that easy for the beginners, like the very beginners. If you are just starting, those would be very hard for you, I'd say. But if you read some books beforehand, they are a great read after that. So yeah.
Okay, so I understand what you're trying to say, but I kind of disagree, because I have never read a fantastic book in my life. I mean, maybe when I was really young, but basically when I started reading like after school, I always read the self-improvement books, and uh, it wasn't hard for me, because I was focused on learning new things, and this was it.
Yeah, but I feel like you're on a deeper way in the self-improvement because you already know some of those things. So I feel like it's a bit easier for you because you're deep in the self-improvement, you know, and it isn't that hard for you. But there are beginners who I think could understand those things not not well, like in a bad way. So and maybe find the books, boring at the beginning because not every self-improvement book is like packed with action, so they are hard to read uh, fastly, but talking about that, what book have you prepared? Books.
Okay, so one of the book I prepared uh, is Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins. So you mentioned it, and this is a great book because it tells you the story of probably the toughest man alive, David Goggins, and just he talks you through his journey so you can learn how he managed to discipline himself that much that he accomplished the things that he accomplished. Yeah, so that was a big thing for me to read that book. I really I really got deeper into the person of David Goggins, because he was like, for me, I knew that he was this guy, the Navy SEAL guy, the guy who runs marathons, but I didn't knew much about him. And when I read that book, it really made sense. Like, he had a really tough upbringing, which is mentioned in the first chapters. And yeah, and also he also talks you through how he beat his roadblocks. Like every time he had some struggles, he found a solution for that, and he says what helped him. And I try to stick to his lessons, the things he teach in this book, and this makes me way more disciplined.
Okay, so one thing I wanted to ask was that I haven't really read the book. It's like on my to read list, But is this like a biography of his, or like more of a, like 48 Laws of Power, which like states things you should do? How does it look?
Yeah, it's kind of like you would combine those two,
Okay.
because it says the story of David Goggins, but he shares what he learned alongside. So
like
yeah.
a mix of those two.
He shares. Yeah, that's kind of a mix of those two.
Yeah, and the other question, not a question, but like you see, like I feel like because you are deep in the self-improvement, you understand the things he wants you to do, and this helps you. But if you look for a person who just started their self-improvement and they read the book, they may not really get the things that easily. Because if you look, David Goggins is an exceptional person, you know. He is like, he's done so many things that normal people, not like normal, but not disciplined people, wouldn't dare to even try. So I'd say this is a great read, but like you have to think through it, not to do anything dumb, because even though he is saying to like run marathons if you can, it isn't great for everybody. Like I'm not sure what the lessons look like, but you have to know some things to, you know, really stick to them, I feel like.
Okay, so he doesn't tell you to run marathons. Basically, one of his lessons is that you should do what you hate the most, because this is probably the thing you need the most. So for him, he hates running, even though he runs every day. He stayed. He wait. He says that he hates running. So yeah,
Okay.
that's why he does it, because he hates it. And that's what his lesson is, that you should do what you hate because this builds your character.
Okay. So I see the book, but I'm not. I see like what the book is trying to do, but I'm not really sure how it looks. So I feel like it is probably a good way to start. Yeah, I'd say that because it is. It sounds not like simple, but it shows you the ways you're supposed to do those things. I feel like because like if you read 38 Laws of Power, I have read it like half through from what I remember. The laws don't always like make sense to me, and like the things that Robert Greene shows aren't always, you know, interesting to me, you know, because they show like things uh, people in the older ages did, like 300, 400 years ago. So it isn't really showing the days tomorrow, today. Uh, so it isn't really relatable, but David Goggins probably is because he shows you the day he does, the thing he does at the moment. So yeah. By the way, I just changed the book. Do you have also a 48 Laws of Power? Just curious.
Yeah.
So maybe
So we can move on to this
yeah.
book if you want. Yeah, so the second book I want to talk about is 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. And this is what I would describe this book is, this is a dark book. Like, it's really immoral. A lot of powers, a lot of laws that he talks about are immoral. So this is, I believe this is an important book to read, because even if you don't want to use some of the laws because you found it immoral, as we said, you learn, if you learn the way to manipulate others, you are way way harder to be manipulated by others, I believe. So that's why you should read it anyways.
Yeah. But like I've read, like I said, like a half of the book, about half of the book, and it's, I would say that this is a hard book to read, you know, Because if you like look at the, let's say, the Can't Hurt Me book, it shows you David Goggins, how he has overcome those things. This is the book that shows how the present days are looking. But 48 Laws of Power is like a book showing things how they have been in the old times, like I've said before. And there are some, counselors, kings, queens, those aren't the things that really connect to me, So I can't really feel those laws, and not every one of those makes sense, at least to me. So this is a book I'd say you have to really think about when you're reading it. It isn't like that easy that if you read the chapter, it all makes sense. You have to think for a bit about what you have just read. So yeah, I'd say this is probably the hardest one of like the self-improvement books, the well-known ones.
Well, I disagree if it's the hardest. So I still think you should read it, even if you're a beginner, because you can still reread it when you're uh, more more into self-improvement. So, and also he gives historical examples that the laws that he mentions work, but when I look at my life, I have some memories that I could have used these powers, these laws. So I I could relate to this book. Not every law, because some of them are really maybe not complicated, but like very unique.
Okay. Okay, I get it. So, I have another, maybe not easy book for you, but a book that makes you think actually. So this is Future from Dmitry Glukhovsky. This is a Russian author. Maybe some of you know it from like Metro. And this is a pretty easy book. I'd say maybe in like the middle. But the most important thing about it is that it's the lore of it is in the future, and it's talking about the what if people could live forever, like if you found the cure to aging, and how the world would have changed, and do we even want that? Because the thing is that probably many people thought about living forever, that's like nobody wants to die, but do we even want that? That's the thing. Because when people live forever, at some point you will come to the point where there is overpopulation. So there are two things that can happen. Either you have to make people mortal again, so the the overpopulation doesn't come to like a break through, yeah. Or you have to kill people, which is like the plot of the book, that you have the person, like they're not cops, I'd say, but they're like overseas. So if the population grows, you have to kill somebody. They do it morally, more or less, but that really makes you think that being immortal isn't really that good, Because I've read through it. It's a pretty long book. It I really like that. That's probably like one of my favorite books. I know it sounds a bit weird, like the plot, but I think it really makes you think about like the future days. Do we have to invent those things? And that death is natural, so why change that?
Yeah. So I think that death is what actually gives value to life. Life wouldn't be valuable if you were immortal. It wouldn't be valuable because it would be you will live forever. so you wouldn't appreciate life as much.
Yeah, that's like one of the topics that is in the book, because there at that moment almost nobody believes in God. Like, why believe in God if you live forever? That's like one of the questions of the book. And people do things that you wouldn't imagine. Like, there are many things that people of the present days wouldn't do, and they happen because you have the power, you have like the immortality, you can do everything in your life. Like, there are no limitations, mostly because nobody really dies, you know. So it is pretty dark, I'd say. It is an 18 plus book still, but I think, like, I agree with you, because if you live forever, I think I would have just gotten bored, because there aren't that many things to do in life, and you would be like living like an amoeba, you know, without any reason to live, just living because you have to.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, there's nothing to do after, for example, 300 years. You would do literally anything that there is to do. So yeah, that sounds interesting. I didn't read the book, but that sounds really interesting.
Okay. So, what's the last book you have prepared?
Actually, I have two books more. I have
Okay.
one bonus. So I'm gonna go with How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. I believe that's how you should pronounce it. I don't know. He's French, I think.
Yeah, like
So
French is weird. I'm not sure how you should pronounce it too. Yeah.
okay, so this book is about basically social life and social connections and how you should manage it. It's similar to 48 Laws of Power. It's like a family-friendly version of 48 Laws of Power, I would say. Yeah. There is no like an open manipulation in that book, but the author shows you how to use social skills to your advantage, basically. And he uses also historical events, maybe not historical events, but he mentions historical people, people, yeah, uh, and how they got their success. So he mentions a lot of businessmen. He mentions even Teddy Roosevelt and this type of people. So yeah, this is an interesting book. I believe this is the first book I read, like a self-improvement book, and I really liked it. I read it a while ago actually, so I think I'm gonna reread it uh, in this month probably.
Yeah. Okay. I think, like, I've heard of this book, and I've seen some of the chapters. I think, like, the names of the chapters, or like the things you're supposed to do. If I'm correct, maybe it was like a similar book. I'm not sure, but it looks really good. And from the things I've seen and heard, it's probably a great book to like make friends and get to know people, actually, because it allows you to, actually do the things you're supposed to do, you know, not have any awkward silence or awkward moments. You are actually invested in like the conversations.
Yeah, when I read this book, I realized how bad are the social skills of most of the population. Like most of people don't have a clue how to influence people in a way that, for example, they open up to you.
Yeah.
Yeah, he talks a lot about being a good listener. A lot of people are too busy talking about themselves to be a listener, and this is very important
Yeah.
in these days.
How long is the book? Just curious.
I'm not sure. It's like 100 something
Oh,
pages or
so
two
it isn't
It's not a
like,
long book.
yeah. I
Yeah, and
think,
the pages are also small. It's like A5
okay.
size. Yeah.
I from what I know, I had like also a similar book saved, and it's how to read people like a book, something like this. I don't know if you have heard of it. I feel like that would be probably a very similar book to like actually get to know people and like get better at talking to people. So yeah, I feel like that would be probably very similar. I haven't really read it that much. I think I read like the first chapter, but it's probably on the same premise, I feel like. So yeah. And I have not like a similar book, but also like a self-improvement book. And I have like two versions of it from two authors. And that is the Daily Stoic and the Daily Laws. One of it is more like a philosophical book. It's the Daily Stoic is more like a philosophical book because today, like the Stoicism is widely known. Like probably most of the people have heard of it from like school or something. However, sticking to it really helps you your not like your body, but your mind to like think accurately and not get under your emotions when you are going through like hard times and things. The issue with it, as with the other book, is that this is a book you're supposed to read in the whole year. You're reading one chapter a day. They are like one page at most. They are really short, but they really make you think. This is a book you're supposed to read one page and understand the page, like think of it for the whole day, not like the whole day, but understand what you have really read. The Daily Laws from Robert Greene, like the author of 48 Laws of Power, I haven't read, but from what I've seen, this is on the same premise. This is a book you're supposed to like read in the whole year and just actually learn a lot of things. But because you're reading one page or like one chapter a day, you are able to, understand the premises better because you have more time to actually think about it. Because I think the issue with many people is like reading self-improvement is that they read it really fast because they want to understand a lot and they just don't take your time. And like that's probably why I had issues with reading 48 Laws of Power, because I was trying to read like 2 or 3 chapters a day and mostly forgot what they were about and couldn't really stick to them for that reason. And that's why I like the Daily Stoic and probably the Daily Laws from Robert Greene, because you have all the time in the world to read those chapters. Reading one page a day isn't like a lot. Everyone can do that. And this allows you to actually stick to those things better because you have time to think them through. So yeah.
Okay. So is it like a guide about Stoicism?
It is mostly. I think it isn't like similar to 48 Laws of Power, but you have like a quote from the old Stoics, the new Stoics, from like a famous people who have practiced Stoicism, and then you have like a description of how what the quote means, what it is about, so you can get it, so you can make it in your life. You can use that. There are things that help you with, like, at the moment it is February, and February is about emotions. So, like, the one thing is that many people have hatred for something, and the thing that book tells you about is that Stoics don't, like, they have emotions, but they don't show them because there is no reason to. They, like, it doesn't help you. If you look at, like, a guy who is angry at something, does he look like a real man to you, or does he look like just like a baby, who doesn't have control over his emotions and gets angry at the smallest things? So if you are if you have anger towards something, you don't have to show it, because that's, like, not a man thing to do. That's what the book says. And I kinda agree, because, like, it helps you look better in the eyes of everyone else. Like, if you actually think the things through, don't show that much emotions, because there is no reason to. It just doesn't help you. You are a much calmer person this way, and more people, like, respect you, I think. So yeah.
Yeah. So basically, you don't act on your emotions.
Yeah.
Is what this book is about.
There are many chapters which are, like, similar to each other, but they are like reminders to, like, stick to the things you are supposed to do. So yeah, I really like the book, and I feel much better in, like, social life, because if there are things that don't really, happen the way I wanted them to, I'm not really that angry. Like, this doesn't matter that much if I, like, lose a game of chess with you. Like, this is still a lesson for me. So yeah, I think that not maybe everyone should read the book, but because not everyone has to be a Stoic. But the daily laws of, like, the Robert Greene, I guess, is probably similar, and I recommend those types of books. You can read for the whole year, so you can easier stick to them. So yeah, that's my, like, probably the best recommendation on self-improvement at the moment. I think, like, so yeah.
Okay, so moving on. I'm kind of surprised you didn't mention the book I'm about to do.
I probably know which one it is. That's why I haven't mentioned it.
You probably know. So this book is this is the only book I have ever gifted to anybody, and it was a gift to my friend who just broke up with his girlfriend, and he was moving away to a different country to go to university, and I thought that he could start all over again, in new place, new environment, new friends. The book is called The Way of the Superior Man by Deida, and I think this is the grand book, like the book of the books about loving and relationships. And David Deida really focuses on how to love a woman, how to be a good partner, how to manage relationships, romantic relationships. So, have you read it? Because I don't know.
I've started it, but that's, like, it was, this is, like, the most known probably self-improvement book. I mean, many people, I have heard from it from many people. However, it was, like, at the beginning of my self-improvement journey. I tried reading it, and I had the same problem with, like, the 38 laws of power. I was trying to read it too fast, like, to know everything the fastest I can, and that really made me not understand everything well. And that's, like, the book, I think I've read, like, 1/3 of it or something like that. and I will come back to it when I have like some free time to read books, because the things I've read and I remember, I think like really helped me, even though that wasn't really that much, you know. So this is the book I know you really like because we were talking about it one day, and that's on like my to read list, like the first book I want to read when I have the time for it. So yeah.
Yeah, I really recommend you to read it. Even if you don't understand everything you read, it's very important to read it because I read it once and I know I'm gonna come back to this book because I didn't understand a lot of things while reading it. I learned a lot about masculine energy and feminine energy and the dynamic they have with each other. But there are chapters that I still don't understand. I believe there are like 40 something chapters. Yeah, and they really touch a lot of topics about masculinity.
Yeah, like I agree with you because that's like the one book. If you hear about self-improvement, that's like the one book everybody recommends because it just gives you the things you're supposed to do and helps you on, you know, a lot of subjects, like even talking to women, even talking to women you know, you don't know, like changing the way you see the world, you know, and that makes everybody happier, like even your family, you know. So yeah, I I think like that's probably the book we both would recommend. Like that's probably the best one from the books we've told about. But I feel like all of the books we have like recommended are a great read. Like I will probably read to all of the books you have told me about from those that I haven't read, because just the one thing about books is that no book is gonna make you dumber, you know? Like each one has some things that will make you look at the world differently, and most of them make it just look better, you know?
Yeah. Also, the thing with self-improvement books is that basically all of them, when you read it once, you won't get it. Like you won't get all of the wisdom that the book has. So you will need to reread most of them. And I'm on the path now that I'm gonna reread a lot of books that I already read. And I think that I'm gonna understand a lot more, and this will help me a lot.
So yeah, like the one lesson I want to take out from the things we've said is that not to rush things, you know, because you have all the time in the world, and if you rush things, you don't won't understand everything clearly. So take your time, read the books well, and yeah.
Okay, so moving on, I wanted to also kind of mention the thing that when you start reading, it's really hard to start reading. You know, when you graduate from school, you no longer are told what to read, and you can decide for yourself. And I know from my own experience that after I graduated, I had a really hard time reading because it was uncool for me. Like it seemed boring because of the books the school system wanted me to read. And the thing is, you really have to discover it, that you really have to discover that books and reading can be cool if you actually read about the topics that you're interested in.
Yes, I agree. And like the one thing is that in the school they teach you to read books in like a set amount of time and understand everything about the book, even like the smallest details. And I think like when you're reading by yourself, you don't have to remember anything. You have to remember like the premise. You don't have to like if you're reading 48 Laws of Power, you don't have to remember like the historical examples. You have to understand them. And that's like the importance of reading. Understanding the book, not like remembering it word for word.
I agree, but at the same time, I have an opposite opinion because when you actually memorize the historical events, it's really cool thing to mention in conversations, I believe.
I get the point,
I've
but
memorized some of the some of the events, and it's really cool when you bring that up. You seem like a very well-knowing person.
yeah, I get the point, but like it isn't like the one thing I wanted to like explain is that it isn't like school. You don't have to like memorize things just to like pass the test. You have to understand them. The memorization really helps. Like yeah, it helps you understand what you're reading. But the one thing is that if you remember the historical examples from the 38 Laws of Power, but don't understand what they are supposed to mean, it doesn't help you at all. So like first the understanding, then like the remembering, I would say.
Yeah. The second thing I would like to mention is the thing that I did when I was starting to read consistently, and when I discovered reading again. It is that you don't have to read only one book at the time. There was a times that I would read like 4 or 5 books at the same time, and I would just choose between them of what I want to learn about each day.
Yeah, I agree with that because like at the moment I think I have started like 7 books or something like that. Most of them I don't really read. Those are like books that I've started, and if I feel like it, I will finish them. Most of them are like the books I read once in a while, and like there is one book I'm reading every day, but that's because of school, because I have to finish it, and I actually find it a bit interesting, so I don't really mind it that much because it is long, it is mostly boring. However, if you know how to read it, which is like to skip parts which you know what are those about, like descriptional parts, you actually get to understand the book better because you aren't wasting your time reading like every description of how the grass looks, how strong the wind is, but like actually get to the things the book is trying to tell you about. So yeah.
Yeah, this is it.
So I guess that's it for today. I actually didn't expect us to have this much time from it, so the video is really long. But yeah.
Yeah, it's 50 minutes.
Yeah, no matter.
Okay, so hope you enjoyed this episode, and also see you next Friday.
See you next
And
Friday. Yeah,
be a lifelong student.
the most important thing. See ya.
Yeah.